was your interest in Google Street View.
Yeah.
So I guess give me the rundown on how this started.
That's a good question. Now that I think about it, I don't know how I got into it, but a part of it is, I mean, everybody now works from home, but I've worked from home for, I don't know, last 10 years at least, and probably 15 of the last 20. And so I've always kind of had to deal with the isolation of just working from home. And one of the great things about being an analyst is I do get to travel a lot, but it comes in spurts. And so there's a lot of time of just sitting at home. And for some reason, I just started walking around. I wanted to see somewhere where I had been. And so just went on a street view at one point. And I think it probably had to do with, I was trying to remember where things were in relation to other things, trying to, just to remember stuff. And I started walking along streets of places I'd been. And then I thought, well, I'm curious because I just want to see how far the Google Maps Street View has gone. So I would just pick a random city and zoom in and just walk up and down the streets. And I found it to be, I don't know, just outside of my office, there is an entire world. Outside of my home, there's an entire world, and you can just virtually walk the streets. And I remember I remember using it to go around Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've been to New Mexico, but I've never been to Santa Fe. And I remember that was one of the first cities where I walked around and I thought, it's such an alien place. I mean, it's like an alien landscape. I remember looking at a neighborhood, just a suburban neighborhood in Santa Fe, and nobody has any grass. I remember thinking, it would be strange to have, to sell lawnmowers in Santa Fe. And I don't know why. It just struck me as you can walk around somebody's neighborhood and get a sense that some city that's not that far away from me is just completely and totally different. And it became one of those things that whenever I wasn't traveling or whatever, when I was just sitting at home and maybe just thinking, I kind of want to get out of my office, it's an opportunity to just zoom in anywhere you want and walk around cities. And it became just a strange little hobby. You can spend 5 or 10 minutes just walking around and you see just the most mundane, cool things. It's not seeing, I'm not trying to find weird things, it's not voyeuristic. It's really just to walk around and look at the exact strange, mundane, simple things that I look at when I look out my window.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you started doing that, by the way, and you had mentioned that you were doing that for this project, I thought that was really interesting because I thought I was the only person who did that.
Yeah, no, I think there's a whole bunch of us, to be fair. I mean, I just got into this whole game, but I was sort of inspired also by this woman. She goes by the handle Agoraphobic Traveler. So she's got agoraphobia, and so she would go on Google Street View and search around so she could travel and then take these beautiful screenshots of what she saw. And then I think it was a couple years ago did an exhibition at an art gallery of her artwork, of her screenshots, basically.
That's really cool.
And so now that I've found her, I found a couple other people who do something similar. I don't know if they have agoraphobia, but they're taking images on Google Street View and then posting them on Instagram and stuff. So yeah, there seems to be a pretty good number of us. I mean, it's interesting because it not only, I think the Agoraphobic Traveler is interesting in the fact that it's helping a group. This could really help a group of people who can't get out,
right,
or who are, worried to leave. But even if you move past that, it's like people right now in the pandemic, they can go travel,
right.
or they can, people who don't have the money, or people who are working and don't have but 2 weeks of vacation, they're able to sort of get out and explore the world. And I think that's pretty great.
Yeah, and what's really fun too is if you go to a city where there's something that lots of people have seen. So you go to Paris and everybody's going to be around the Louvre. Everybody's going to be around the Arc de Triomphe. So, I love to dangle the little yellow guy, the Google Map, and just drop him on the circles where somebody's posted a picture. So you can see all the places that everybody is going to go see. You can go get all those pictures. But what's really cool too is to zoom out and find these circles in really, places that are sort of empty. And I remember I was over Western Kansas, sort of hovering over Western Kansas, because the map or the pictures, of all the circles of all the irrigation is just kind of pretty in and of itself. And there was a circle in the middle of nowhere in Western Kansas. And I thought, why would somebody upload a picture there? And you drop the guy down on it. And I think it was the highest point in Kansas. And there's like a little plaque there.
Okay.
And zoom in on that. And it's just this big horizon. And it's actually kind of pretty. But those are the kinds of things that, you can discover. Normally those you would discover by accident if you just drive off a highway and take the wrong exit to the bathroom or whatever. But this is a way that you can find these places where somebody said, this is a really pretty picture I took in the middle of nowhere. I want you to see it. And that to me it's not just for people who can't travel, but would probably still end up at a place where there'll be lots of those little dots all over the map because that's where everybody wants to go and see. But it's also for finding these really strange places that somebody just took a picture and said, this is pretty, you need to look at. With the hope that maybe someday somebody like me would drop the little Google Street Map guy.
Right.
And look, there's what made somebody determine that needed to be uploaded. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of my next adventure, is finding someone who's like a serial uploader of these pictures around the world. So like, do you post onto Google Street View?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't know why. I just feel like, I don't know. Maybe I lack the confidence to determine that what I'm looking at is really cool enough to do that. But there are some cities where clearly the Google Street car, whatever, doesn't drive through. And so I've been to India a couple of times. And so, I just want to see, I wanted to see some of the cities there, and I looked at it and, well, there's no street view. But there are a lot of those circles where people uploaded things. And they're kind of cool, because they might be somebody's shop that they've uploaded, or their neighborhood. And you'll notice that there are some people, you'll notice the same name has uploaded in an area. And I find it interesting because I do wonder, what is it that made that person say, this is something that I think people should look at? And some of them are very, very cool. And some are kind of quaint, here's my shop, so please take a look at my shop. And I don't know, I think that's kind of fun to look at.
Yeah, totally. So when you say you've been to India, you have physically been there, or just?
Yes, no, physically I have gone there. And sometimes, it's just a way of, the times that I've done that, it's just a way of saying, okay, I'd like, I'd like to see where I've been. And, looked for a street map view, and it doesn't exist because no cars going through those streets. Right. And if you've ever been to India, it makes total sense. It's not a place that would probably be very conducive to driving a Google Street car, with the map. But I just wanted to take a look at it. And since that didn't exist, it's the only way you can really look at is what have people uploaded. And again, it's kind of cool. There are places that, especially when you go for business, you don't really get a lot of time to look around. And so it's nice to actually look at those places sort of from a tourist eye, but, also trying to remember, oh yeah, what was it that I even saw while I was there, because I was in meetings most of the time.
Right. So have you
a lot of time in a little protected bubble when you travel for business? You go conference room to hotel to restaurant and then back.
Yeah, I know this well. I try to extend my travel always, a couple days on either side, or like a week on one side, just so I can see more of the cities that I'm actually in. Because during work travel, you're not really seeing a city or getting to know the people that are in that city at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, have you found a spot, thrown your little yellow guy and then been like, I have to go to this place that I've now found?
I will put Santa Fe actually on that, because Santa Fe does look very cool. I've never had a chance to really go, so I want to go there. There have been a couple of places in, Ohio. I've just, you pick a spot and you zoom in on it and you see what you can find. There are some like really pretty places in the upper Midwest that I've never been to, that I would love to go and see. I don't know why, but it's just a lot of it has to do too with, the weather. Whenever that street view came up, it might be a nice, really sunny spring day. I've never been to Iowa, and I walked around Des Moines one time, and it looked like a perfectly lovely place. And so I would love to go to. Again, it's not about the really exciting places necessarily. I mean, in an insulting way towards, Iowa or Ohio or anywhere else, but there's a part of me that I want to find a place in Iowa and go there and say, I found it on the map and this is the actual place. And yeah, it's places I don't know why the Upper Midwest has been a place I've wandered around lately. And then there are also some places in like South Dakota and North Dakota. I've never been in the Dakotas either.
Those are
And
really beautiful areas.
yeah, and they seem really, really barren. And there are a lot of the little dots that show people have uploaded things. And I want to go there too.
Yeah, that was on the money tripping road trip that I did. I remember being super surprised by South Dakota and North Dakota. I did not have a huge amount of preconceived notions besides like who the hell lives in South and North Dakota.
Right? Yeah.
And when I got there, it was crazy because it was so beautiful and such a weird landscape. Like I had never seen that kind of landscape before, but it's like these rocky cliffs that look almost like striped because they have different colors in between them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing around you and that's just it. There's nothing around there that would draw you there for work.
Right.
If you don't have family, you wouldn't go there. And so that's what I think is cool is, the ability to go to these places that, am I really going to go to a small town in Iowa? I might. Probably not, but just the ability to walk around and say, okay, well, I've at least seen what it looks like. And again, I don't know why I'm drawn to the suburbs. I'm really fascinated by it's weird. And I think it's that the suburbs themselves are so recognizable pretty much anywhere in the US. You go to the suburbs of Chicago or the suburbs of Dallas, where I am, or the suburbs of Santa Fe, or the suburbs of any of these places, and they're sort of recognizable and yet also really, really different. It's the same stuff, but put in very different geographies and very different, it might be mountains, it might be, I don't know, it might be the desert, it might be whatever. And it just, to me, it strikes me as so funny how we've made this really recognizable suburban landscape fit wherever it is that we've gone. And I don't know why that. And I think also that's where a lot of the Google Street Maps are available, because everybody's trying to find where they're going in the suburbs. So
Right. So are you usually traveling in the US or do you go outside of the US?
It started in the US, but now I'm spending a lot of time. So I've gotten into watching. I'm going to come across as the most boring person in the world, but I'm fascinated by canals in the UK.
Okay.
Canal boats and go up and down the canals in the countryside in the UK. And so I've been watching these shows. These folks will sell everything and they'll buy a canal boat and they'll live on the canals in the UK. So when I watch those, I go to Google Street Maps and I try to find the places where they have been because they're chugging through and talking about their travels, but they're showing these really, really pretty these countryside in the UK. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And so I've been touring the UK a lot the last few months, especially during the pandemic.
Interesting. So I want to go back to sort of that feeling of maybe like the world is so big, I am so small that you get. So
Yeah.
It's a similar feeling that I have gotten, which I don't typically experience when I'm physically traveling. Like every once in a while, I mean, traveling is great and it opens my mind and it's really wonderful, a passion of mine. But I don't typically get that, oh, the world is so big and I am so small, with traveling physically, like going to
Right.
one certain place. But as I've been searching around on Google Street View, you know, I sit there and I'll type in a country, right? So Serbia, and then I see Serbia, and it's like there's borders defined and it looks small as it relates to sort of the rest of the world where you can
Yeah.
go. But then once you like drop your guy in there, you get sent into this one image, right? So maybe like a mountainscape, and it's just like, oh my God, these places are everywhere
Yeah.
in this outline border. And so it does really have that effect on me where I'm like, I have seen so very little of the world, and I thought I was well traveled, you know, but
Yeah, no, it is
holy
weird.
crap. Yeah.
And so, and I think that may be why I like the mundane thing, is because if you look at a country and like look at France and you think, okay, where do people want to go in France? Well, they want to go to Paris. And where do they want to go in Paris? Well, they want to go to the Eiffel Tower. And so when you look at travel that way, it becomes about, points. There are 100 places in the world that everybody has to go see: the Empire State Building, the Hollywood sign, the Eiffel Tower, the Taj Mahal. And so it becomes, you start looking at travel as a collection of these points. Well, that to me makes the world feel like it's just kind of a list that you check things off. But when you start looking at the really mundane things, again, the day-to-day things, so you go into Bulgaria or Romania or whatever, and you go into a city and you zoom in on that city and you find a street and there are houses and there are people that live in those houses, and those people go to jobs, and those jobs may be in an industry I know nothing about. That to me really starts to expand the world, because then it's about, that city is its own little world where there are people who work and live and play and do all kinds of stuff and have absolutely no idea that a James Wester exists in Texas. That seems much bigger in its way than all of these people who are going to see, the Tower of London or the Eiffel Tower or whatever. Because then you can just focus in on all of those things, and the world becomes very, very narrow and small. It's just about these big places that everybody wants to go, as opposed to you start looking at these small places and the world actually gets bigger that way.
Right. Right.
That's where, again, just walking up and down a street in Pittsburgh or whatever, you get a sense that Pittsburgh's a place, it's a thing. I've never been there, and yet there are millions of people who live there, and that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, totally.
Idea of Pittsburgh.
So when did you start doing the Google Street View stuff? Was there like a specific year you started doing this?
Probably, my guess would have been about 10 years ago. That was when I was kind of in the middle of a job change and was really working at home more than going to an office. And so spent a lot of time sort of on my own, left to my own devices, working in my own office, and wanted to just, visit places I'd been before, because I hadn't gone in a while, hadn't done any travel. And that, I think, is when it got started. And back then, most of the Street View, most of the maps were really, it was only, big cities, New York and London and that kind of place. So it was, okay, I know those cities, so I'll just go see some of the places that maybe I worked at. And I think it might not have been maybe that long ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, but it was at a point where I wasn't really traveling a lot, and I thought I kind of missed that, seeing something new. I love the view out my window, but you can only look at it so many times.
Yeah.
Just you want to see something else, and so it's been that long ago. I've been pretty consistent since then.
Has that changed how you view the world or see the world, or even like maybe a day-to-day thing? Has that changed anything in how you think?
I know that it has made me look at, especially when I go and I look at places I've been, it gives me a sense that those places are real. Um, and by that, I mean, they're places I've really been. They are part of things that I've done in the past. Other people have been there too. And so it gives me a sense that there is something else beyond my day to day that I'm working on, if that makes sense. In other words, there is a whole big world out there. And again, it's a whole big world out there that has no idea that I even exist. So that's kind of, there's something almost comforting about it. In other words, I don't have to worry about, not everybody's paying attention to me.
Right.
So it takes a lot of pressure off. There's a big bright world out there that doesn't really care if I make the wrong decision today or what I do. So there is that. There is also an interesting sense. So sometimes when I watch a movie, I'll want to go and see, you'll see something in the background. You'll see a street name or a crossroads somewhere, and you'll know the city that it was filmed in. So you want to go see what's actually there. And, you zoom in, and it turns out that whatever action was taking place in that movie, turns out it's just this boring little place, and, nothing exciting is going on there. So it also gives me a sense that the exciting things that are happening, the news that you see, or any of the stuff that sort of captures our attention moment by moment, the fact is that place existed before that action happened. It's going to exist afterwards. And so again, it gives you a sense that not everything that is immediately noteworthy, newsworthy, exciting, those things kind of pass, and everything else is just sort of the world moving on. So there's a sense that, again, not everybody's paying attention to me, and not everybody's paying attention to whatever is happening right then. And so it's I don't know, I guess it's the same thing that everybody gets when they travel, just the sense that the world is a big place, and there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, totally. It's honestly, it's a very meditative thing that you're explaining here. And I say that because I just did a meditation class, and so I'm like very familiar with sort of this narrative, but of like things coming, and then you like, it comes and it goes. And I think it's hard for many people in today's like sort of hyper connected world to remember that.
Yeah.
Like every little news story becomes this like, oh my God, did you hear what happened? As if the world was going to end. And it's like, you can just, some things are important, sure, but you can also know that they are going to pass. And I think it helps me have like a better outlook on life. In my personal opinion, to know that those things will come and go, that like happiness will come and go, anger will come and go, and also this news story will come and go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a nice feeling. It's like the world is meaningless, but that makes me feel good.
There is something about that. Yeah, you get this sense that, whatever is going on in my world right now, if I were to drop the little yellow Google guy down into, I don't know, Poughkeepsie, there is going to be a picture of an intersection in Poughkeepsie that's been there for forever, or at least a long time. It's going to be there long after I'm gone. Everything is sort of, it'll handle itself. I don't need to worry.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so you've been in the UK. What's your favorite place that you've seen in Google Street View? Like you dropped the guy and you're like, holy shit, I did not expect it to be this beautiful here.
I have to say, the very first one I talked about, dropping the guy into, why is there a circle here in Kansas? Because it's a 360 view, and it's one of those. I mean, if you've been to Kansas or anywhere in the Great, you can see the curvature of the earth. And as the person did that 360 view, you get a sense that it's really pretty. It's very flat, but there's something about it that is kind of captivating, because it's just 360 degrees with the earth curving away from you all the way around. It was very cool.
Oh, cool, yeah.
There was a dot that it was in like the English countryside somewhere. And again, it was one of those areas where you see all the street lines and there's just this big patch of green, nothing around it, and a dot right in the middle. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really interesting. And when I dropped the guy on it, it was somebody had taken a picture in springtime. and it was just this glade where all these flowers were blooming. And it was one of those moments where I went, wow, that's really pretty. And I thought, I don't know who this person is. I don't know why they took this picture, why they were there that day, but thank goodness they did. And they shared it. And so now it's this 360-degree view of this glade on this day in spring when all the flowers were coming.
So is that like, I have not paid a huge amount of attention to this as I've been going about. And I think that's just my nature, to be fair, but also maybe I could pay more attention. But is it easy to sort of share where you went? Like, so for instance, I can probably find the one in Kansas, right? Because I'm gonna look, right, I'm gonna look for that specific dot in Western Kansas. But yeah, is it easy to sort of share these or go back to these same places?
I don't know.
I gotta do some.
That's a great question. I am so selfish. I just want to keep it for myself. So, and also, up until this conversation, I've been a little embarrassed to admit that, I'm sort of creeping around Google Street Maps. I've always thought it was a little odd. And it probably is, but odd's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't know. I'm sure that there is probably some way to do it. Maybe I will start sharing these.
Yeah.
Seen on Google Street Maps. And again, they're not, I know there are listicles about, all the really voyeuristic or creepy or weird things you can find on Google Street Maps. I'm not interested in those at all.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I will, I'll start sharing, the most boring, cool things I've seen on.
Yeah. The most similar looking suburbs throughout
Exactly. Exactly. Chilies of America.
That's funny. Okay, I'm gonna go look at the Western Kansas one for sure.
It's the highest pick in Kansas.
Okay, I used to, because I lived in Colorado at one time, and so I was driving back and forth to Missouri a lot, and so I've done Kansas so much.
Yes, yeah. I-70 through Kansas is, yeah.
That's really all that you can say about it.
Kansas is great. I love Kansas, big fan. But I-70, that drive from Kansas City till you start seeing foothills.
Yeah. Well, so does your family also do this? Is this like a family thing as well now?
No, not at all.
Dad's weird.
Nope. Yeah. I thought I discovered this personally. I thought maybe I was the only person who did this. So
I think there's more people. I think that's why it's there. Well, and also, so Google now has sort of an arts and culture section, so you can go into museums and sort of Google Street View through the museums. And then I have not checked this out, but I also saw, I think Vice wrote about this. They have an underwater section as well.
Cool. I would totally do that because I'm claustrophobic and could never scuba dive.
Yeah, probably. Well, that will not be something I do.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
So yeah, I'll send you the link to that because it's a specific area. It's obviously not all of the ocean, but this team of people was like going and inspecting something down in the ocean, and I guess took a Google camera or something. So yeah, that'd be kind of cool. So you also take screenshots while you're.
I will. Yeah, I'll take them and I'll put them up on my my background for a while.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's pretty amazing the pictures you can take on Google Street View, to be fair.
I'm sorry?
It's pretty amazing the pictures that you can take on Google Street View. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, no, it's and it's weird too because I feel like because it's on Google Street View, it's just there. In other words, I don't have to, a car took them, so it's not like I have to credit anyone. It's not like I have to say, I don't feel like I'm taking somebody else's art.
Right.
Take it and look at it and put it on my screen. It's just there. Probably not the best way to look at intellectual property, but
yeah, but I mean, if it's the Google Streetcar, I'm like, it's fine. Because you're making your own piece of art out of it.
Right.
If it was somebody else's picture, it probably wouldn't be how I'd look at that. I don't know. This is new territory, so who knows what's going to come out of this. Okay, well, thank you for talking to me about Google Street View.
This is great, and I really enjoyed the videos.
Awesome. Okay, I will let you go, Google Street View. I'm going to go do the same. So that's both of our days today.
All right, I will send you pictures if I find anything cool.
Okay, all right. I'll talk to you later. Thanks, James.
Take care.